It's tough, believe me. I have been trained all my life to be very straight, very calm, but this is quite an experience. It's extremely distressful. It's extremely distressful.
For the past 2 weeks, Domingos Laudisio and his family have sat through hours of gruelling evidence as a coronial inquest tries to unravel what led to the untimely death of the young man they call Beto. The 21-year-old Brazilian was in Australia studying English, living with his sister and brother-in-law in Sydney's inner west.
Very people-oriented boy, very social, extremely friendly, very warm personality. He has had let's call it, a personal charm.
It was March the 17th, St Patrick's Day. The city was crowded and extra police were on patrol. Just after 9 o'clock, Roberto and 2 friends arrived at the Irish pub Scruffy Murphy's on the corner of Goulburn and George Streets.
Sometime between 9:30pm and 11:30pm, the 3 men shared a single tab of LSD which had been purchased by one of Roberto's friends. Toxicology tests on Roberto's hair demonstrated that he was not a regular drug user.
Mr Curti and his friends then caught a train to King's Cross. Later, joined by another friend, they walked down William Street back towards the CBD. The inquest heard that as the evening wore on, Mr Curti's behaviour became more and more erratic. He was scared and agitated, pacing back and forth across the street. His friends urged him to go home. Then just after 4:30 in the morning, he made an uncharacteristic call to his sister, saying, "Why do you want to kill me?" She also told him to come home. But his phone ran out and she was unable to get back in touch. Not long after, Roberto Laudisio Curti set out on his own. Security camera footage from 50 different locations in the city shows events unfolding. Just before 5 in the morning, 4 men are seen chasing Mr Curti. It's not known what provoked this. Bleeding from the scuffle, he went into a convenience store in King Street, trying to hide and asking for help. Psychiatrist Jonathan Phillips gave evidence about Roberto's state of mind.
His deteriorating behaviour from about 11pm was certainly consistent with the use of LSD. Finally, a point is reached where the person is wholly psychotic and has entered a world which is their own private world, a private hell if you like, and from which there was no escape.
Mr Curti left the store, then came back again at 5:20 and launched himself onto the counter. On his way out, an act which may have helped shape what followed, he picked up 2 packets of biscuits. A passing street cleaner called 000.
There's a robbery at a city deli in King Street. I saw the guys just jumping the cage.
So did they have any weapons at all?
I didn't see.
The radio call went out to police, incorrectly as it turned out, alerting them to an armed robbery.
Rox car, any car in the vicinity for an armed robbery, city convenience store.
Within minutes, the police communications centre corrected the first call.
No weapon. I can confirm no weapon was sighted. No weapon was sighted, Roxton.
Yeah, Rox been, I've copied that before. Just, what was the proceeds?
Apologies, Rox 35, the proceeds of the robbery. Radio, just 2 packets of biscuits.
Hot and sweaty, the inquest heard most likely from the effects of the LSD, Mr Curti removed his shoes and socks, then made his way south along Pitt Street, alternately walking and running. Senior Constable Eric Lim and his partner were patrolling nearby. They heard the radio calls, spotted Mr Curti and gave chase. More police officers joined the pursuit.
Radio, there's a foot pursuit going down Pitt Street, heading towards Liverpool Street.
A security camera at the Princeton Serviced Apartments shows what happened next, as 4 officers chased Roberto down the street, 2 with tasers drawn. Wendy Price, who was staying at the apartments, told the inquest she looked out of her window to the scene below.
As I was struggling to restrain him, I saw a flash, which he seemed to react violently to, and he writhed and twisted and managed to break free from the policeman. It just sounded like he was yelling, and I couldn't make sense of it.
Could you describe the sounds at all?
Well, I described them at the time. It sounded like a wild animal yelling.
Mr. Curti was tackled twice by police and managed to get away and keep running. Officers told the inquest he had superhuman strength. A camera at the Coffee Pit Cafe captured events as a taser fired by Senior Constable Lim brought Roberto Ladicio Curti to the ground for the final time.
The male is resisting violently or was?
316, yeah, radio, he's really violent, about 10 cops here and he's still going.
Police fired their tasers at Mr. Curti 14 times in 4 minutes. A camera inside the taser records what's happening during its use. Counsel assisting the coroner, Jeremy Gormley, said he had reservations about releasing this footage, but Mr. Curti's family insisted.
The decision was to show to everybody the difference between what was on that film and what was on the police reports. That was my personal decision. Even against some members of the family, I insisted on it.
The footage shows that Roberto Ladicio Curti was on the ground and handcuffed when Senior Constable Lim recycled his taser and fired a second time. Another officer had a knee on his abdomen.
You had a choice?
Yes.
One choice was to allow the 5 or so police officers to attempt to restrain Roberto by, if I can call it, old-fashioned means?
Yes.
The other was to blast him again with the taser, right?
That's correct.
You chose that second option?
That's correct, yes.
Roberto was yelling of pain and he was handcuffed and they were still drive-stunning, taser on him. I'm not saying that he was right. He was acting in a very proper basis. His behavior was inappropriate. But that film was unbelievable, unbelievable.
When questioned about standard operating procedures for the weapons, police gave different interpretations to the inquest. Constable Daniel Barling, then a probationary constable, admitted in his evidence that he drive-stunned Roberto 5 times, a method where the taser is held directly against the body, causing localised pain.
I put to you too, Constable, that when you were there, Mr. Curti is struggling on the ground and you're aiming your taser at him and pulling the trigger. That had no reasonable basis whatsoever.
I believed at the time it did.
I suggest to you that instead of it being reasonable policing, it was an act of thuggery on your part.
No, sir.
In the final minutes of his life, Roberto Ladicio Curti was here in Pitt Street, pinned to the ground and surrounded by 11 police officers. The inquest heard that 2 officers applied their tasers directly to his body almost simultaneously. They said they were unaware of each other's actions. At the same time, another constable discharged up to 3 cans of capsicum spray close to Mr. Curti's face.
Was there any other feature of the event that would assist to understand why there was not a concern about him being able to breathe until that very end stage?
Because he was still fighting with us at the time, this is purely what I was thinking. I didn't think there was any concern about him not breathing.
So there was no concern that a reason why he might be fighting was to try and breathe?
It didn't cross my mind, no.
After seeing the taser cam footage, some police acknowledged that their recollection of events was different to what that vision showed, but all claimed their actions on the night were justified.
So you thought that causing him pain might assist the situation in some way?
Yes, I believed it would cause him to comply with the police's direction.
A panel of medical experts told the inquest there's no proof Mr. Curti died as a direct result of being tasered, but that the combined actions of police played a part in his death. One doctor gave evidence that the student probably died of positional asphyxiation or choking.
But now we would like to dedicate some time for us to know a bit more about the lovely person that this world has just lost.
I hope you can hear me. I remember it clearly.
Before final submissions tomorrow, the family today had their chance to speak to the court. State Coroner Mary Jerram said the family's statements wouldn't influence her findings.
During these days of the inquest, after hearing what we have heard, we can just say it's shocking. It's shocking that police acted the way they did, and their lack of integrity disgusts me.
I witnessed here the absolute, bulletproof lack of integrity of many police officers. Not all, many. It was disgusting, and I hated it.
Domingos Laudicio's anger is only matched by his enormous sense of regret.
I'm going to tell you just for you and for the first time. So be careful on what I'm going to say. I feel very sorry I was not here to grab him and take him home. That's the way I feel. I dream about that every night.